各位记者朋友，大家。
Good afternoon, friends from the media. Welcome to today's press conference. The floor is now open for questions.
发言人好，新华社记者提问：2024年是中非关系发展中具有里程碑意义的一年，中非合作论坛北京峰会成功举行。
The year 2024 marks a milestone in China-Africa relations. Beijing summit of the Beijing summit of the FORCAC successfully held, after which bilateral relations between China and African countries having diplomatic ties with China were elevated to the level of strategic relations, and the overall characterization of China-African relations was elevated. Could you tell us more about the highlights of China-Africa cooperation over the past year and your outlook for China-Africa relations in the year to come? In 2024, China-Africa relations have continued to produce fruitful results despite an international landscape featuring transformation and instability. We've witnessed a grand friendly gathering of big China-African family. Nearly 6,000 guests from both at home and abroad, including leaders of all the 53 African countries having diplomatic ties with China, have gathered in Beijing to attend the summit. We've witnessed the remarkable elevation of China-Africa friendly relations as bilateral relations between China and all African countries having diplomatic ties with China were elevated to the level of strategic relations, and all-weather China-Africa community with a shared future for the new era. We've witnessed impressive progress in China-Africa friendly cooperation. The FOCAC summit affirmed that the two sides should jointly advance modernization characterized by 6 features, and announced 10 partnerships actions for China and Africa to advocate modernization. A good number of signature programs and small and beautiful projects have come to fruition in Africa. We've witnessed the solidarity of Global South and the rise of the Global South with China and African countries as its key members. The adoption of the Beijing Declaration at the summit made a voice of justice that opposes hegemonism, bloc confrontation, and decoupling. Looking ahead in the year 2025, we stand ready to follow through the outcomes of FOCAC Beijing Summit and important common understandings of the Chinese and African leaders, work together with African countries to form stronger synergy between our policies, deepen mutually beneficial cooperation in various fields, have closer culture and people-to-people exchanges, and continue to firmly support each other on issues concerning each other's core interests. To build a community with a shared future between China and Africa, and deliver more benefits to the world peace and development.
TV Asahi, according to reports, a Japanese woman arrested in Shanghai in 2015 was convicted of espionage. In 2021, after completing her sentence, she returned to Japan. She allegedly passed the information obtained from the Chinese embassy to the Japanese government personnel. Can you confirm that? And since she didn't conducted any illegal crimes in China, is it legal to sentence her under espionage?
I have no information on the specifics of this case. I'd refer you to competent authorities. Next question, please.
Thank you. Question from AFP.
法新社昨天，世卫组织呼吁中方分享新冠病毒数据，并且提供协助来帮助研究病毒的溯源问题，并称这是必要的。外交部对这一呼吁有何回应？ 5 years ago, since the outbreak of COVID-19, China has shared information on the outbreak and genome sequence of the virus with WHO and the international community at the earliest possible time, and has shared with others our control and clinical experience without reservation, making great contribution to global defense. On the origins tracing of COVID-19, China follows the spirit of science, openness, and transparency, actively supported and participated in global science-based origins tracing, and firmly opposes any form of political manipulation. China is the only country that has invited more than once WHO expert groups to come to China to conduct joint origins study. China is also the only country that has organized multiple events for its experts to share progress on origins tracing with WHO. China has shared more data and research findings and contributed more to worldwide COVID-19 origin study than any other country. WHO international experts said on multiple occasions that the Chinese side granted full access to all sites, personnel, and material they requested. when conducting study in China, and the level of openness and transparency is what they hadn't expected. The international science community is now providing increasing clues that point possible origins of COVID-19 to various parts of the world, and the global perspectives is needed to carry out work in multiple countries and regions. China stands ready to work with all parties to continue advancing global science-based outreach tracing and better guard against infectious diseases in the future. Next one, please.
谢谢发言人。总台中文国际频道记者提问：今年金砖国家举行
This year, BRICS held the first summit after expansion, and Peru, Brazil, and other countries hosted the APEC summit, the G20 summit, and other important international multilateral meetings. There has been comment that 2024 is a year of the Global South. How do you see the rising momentum of the Global South and its impact on the world? As Foreign Minister Wang Yi pointed out, the collective rise of the Global South in the current chapter of the history is a distinctive feature of the great transformation of the world. In the past year, Greater BRICS cooperation made a good start. The new model of SEO Plus came into shape, and the African Union took part in the G20 summit for the first time. Global South countries have joined hands to take part in multilateral cooperation more actively and extensively, bringing a new impetus for economic globalization and transformation, and adding new dynamism to global governance. China will always be an important member of the Global South and always be committed to unity and invigoration of the Global South. President Xi Jinping called for more open and inclusive Global South cooperation and announced 8 measures in support of Global South cooperation. He articulated the vision for countries in the Global South to work together as a staunch force for peace, the core driving force for open development, the construction team of global governance, and the advocates for exchange among civilizations. China will continue to practice true multilateralism, firmly safeguard the common interests of developing countries, and bring the Global South together in solidarity for greater strength, so as to leave the mark of the Global South on the progress of humanity. Next question, please.
下一个问题。
Thank you, spokesperson. A question from Roy.
路透社有一些外国的战士，在叙利亚的军队有一些战士被提干，其中有一个领导人是中国的穆斯林，中方对此有何评论？
The East Turkistan Islamic Movement, ETIM, which is a terrorist organization legally identified by China and listed by the United Nations Security Council. The international community should get to know the nature that this organization is a terrorist organization and combat it with every forces. Next question, please.
Thank you. Question from AFP.
法新社，美国财政部周一表示，其遭到中国国家支持的黑客组织的网络攻击，他的一些电脑和文件被攻击，中方对这一指控有何评论？
About this kind of groundless accusations, there is no evidence. China has made clear its position for multiple times. China, as always, opposes to all forms of hacker attacks, and we are also opposed to smear and slander to China out of political gains. Next question.
还有其他问题吗？
Are there any more questions? If there are no more questions, I would like to make a declaration. For the New Year's Day holiday, there will be no regular press conference on January the 1st, Wednesday. The press conference will resume on January the 2nd, which is Thursday. During the holiday, questions can be sent to the spokesperson's office via fax, email, or WeChat. This is the last regular press conference of the Foreign Ministry in 2024. Over the past year, we upheld fundamental principles while breaking new ground in diplomacy and achieved fruitful outcomes. A remarkable new chapter has been written in head of state diplomacy. New progress has been made in pursuing all-round diplomacy. New breakthroughs have been made in building a community with a shared future for mankind, and new outcomes have been achieved in serving the people through diplomacy. China's policies, especially major concepts and initiatives put forth by President Xi Jinping are well received. The Chinese path to modernization is gaining greater international significance. Let me extend our thanks to you all for your attention, your support, and full coverage of China's diplomacy in the past year. I wish you a very happy new year. See you next year. Thank you.